So as you know, I don't break the news. I just give my reaction to what's going on. And today has been eventful so far. Not only eventful because Nebraska's losing a defensive coordinator who we've known wasn't going to be at Nebraska next year, but eventful because there are rumors that their defensive line coach could leave. A defensive line coach who's tied to Matt Rule, and if he was to leave, has so many player connections as one of the lead recruiters on this staff that it could decimate the entire defense. So I don't want to get over excited about that yet. I don't want to get too far in because we have to break down what's actually happened so far this morning to catch everyone up to speed because it has been a bit confusing, especially for me. I mean, you got to follow through with everybody tweeting stuff and putting their own opinions out as to what's going to happen. But let's start with the facts. First was Pete Nakos reporting that Tony White had emerged as the top candidate for the Florida State defensive coordinator job. This was released at 7:50 a.m. my time, I think around 10 a.m. Nebraska time. This wasn't a surprise. I mentioned that Nebraska would be looking for a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator in my post-game stream after the Iowa game because there were reports in the last 2 weeks that he was going to end up at Florida State. So not a surprise. It's a big deal because Nebraska had a top 20 unit this year. They had a top 13 unit last. Florida State obviously coming with a bag. But one of the lead reasons that we all expected this to happen was because there was some sort of a weird relationship with Rule and Tony White after the Indiana game and then leading into November once he brought in Phil Snow to be an analyst. And if you're Tony White and you're like, man, I want to be in charge, I want to lead the way, and I feel like I'm doing a good job, why do you have someone else micromanaging our situation? Now, you could look at that and say, well, the defense had its ups and downs this season. There were times where they looked like a top 25 unit, especially against the run. It was one of their best defensive performances in the last 2 years. Maybe it was their best defensive performance in the last 2 years. Last week against Iowa. And then obviously against Wisconsin, they gave up nearly 400 yards. Against Indiana, they gave up around 500. I mean, you saw hit or miss moments with them. I want to end this on, I'm not too concerned about the transition between Tony White and another defensive coordinator. He was a stud. Respect Tony White. Love what he built and what he was able to repair at Nebraska. Think about it. Nebraska was like the 77th ranked unit in 2022. Coming into 2023, we had no idea what the expectation should be. He was able to revive them and get them into the top 15, which no matter how you viewed it at the end of that season, it was a massive improvement. And from a recruiting standpoint, the freshmen they were able to play, extremely impressive. So yes, problem that Tony White's gone, but not a problem that Nebraska wouldn't overcome. This is natural and it was expected to happen. But then more news started to come out. I think the next thing was Terrence Knighton was linked to the Tony White transition. And I saw this from Caleb Henry on Sports Illustrated. He writes about Nebraska, and he said Nebraska football defensive line coach Terrence Knighton to go to Florida State. So that wasn't an official announcement that he was going to Florida State, but it was the first report that could happen. And it wasn't debunked by anyone. Sean Callahan had said, yeah, he's still at Nebraska right now, but we're all waiting to see what happens. I was under the impression, based on hearing other people's sources, because I didn't have any of my own on this one, they were saying that they thought T-Knight was kind of in a bidding war between Florida State and Nebraska, and whoever could offer the most money would end up getting him. But then you got to the transfer. So a few hours after that, we saw 3 transfers pop in. So the first was Vincent Jackson. Now, he's a former 4-star defensive tackle. He did play this year a little bit. I think he played in 8 or 9 games. He entered at 10:45 a.m. The problem is people are on Twitter. I want to get to the Twitter thing after. Let's just go through the 3. You move on to Stephon Thompson. An hour later at 11:46 a.m. my time. He was from Syracuse. Obviously, he didn't have a great season at Nebraska, but he was a reserve linebacker. He played significant reps, and he's tied to our man, Tony White. So no matter what happened with White, I'm not surprised he's leaving. The next one caught me, and it should have caught you off guard. Jamari Butler, Nebraska's lone returning defensive line starter coming back next season, who has been outspoken about his love for Nebraska and wanting to rebuild, at 1:30, 2 hours later, announced he was entering the portal. Now, this one's a massive problem, and there are 2 schools of thought here. I've seen them all in Twitter. People are trying to come after it and say, no, Connor, we need to rid ourselves of Scott Frost players and all this, right? Well, I've got 2 points here about Jamari Butler. Number one is Jamari's a stud. And when we talked about cutting the roster down from 150 players to 105, Matt Rule wasn't talking about getting rid of these 3 players. He was talking about getting rid of guys you've never heard of before. He was talking about getting rid of walk-ons and guys who would never contribute, never play on special teams, and never find their way on. Now, keep in mind, obviously, there are fluke scenarios where guys pop out and they end up becoming successful. Luke Lindenmeyer is a perfect example of that. Walk-on turned starting tight end, right? He's now has a major role at Nebraska. Same, John Bullock, Alex Bullock. But that's not the point here. The point is you can't afford to lose your star players. Jamari Butler is one of Nebraska's star players. Now, people will still argue with that, but it's nonsense. You have to keep your best guys. Nebraska's building a foundation. Matt Rule said, I'm going to come here and build it my way. And by the time we get to year 3, we're going to be ready to roll. What happens if you lose the infrastructure you built? Well, now you've got to go to the portal. You've got to go and do what Rule was hesitant to do in the beginning. You got to take a different path. And that's what you don't want to see happen. Now, here's the biggest issue in all of this. While the report is a rumor still, not a rumor. It's pretty clear that Terrence Knighton's between Florida State and Nebraska, and we don't know where he's going to end up. I'm sure, hopefully on this stream, we'll have an answer by the end. I don't know. But we're waiting to see what Terrence Knighton's future holds. The amount of players that are tied to Terrence Knighton is concerning. It should concern you, because if you go to Nebraska's depth chart, they're all going with him, right? If you look at the defensive guys who has a relationship with him, just pull it up. Go to defense. Jamari Butler has already announced he would leave. Go back to Jamari Butler, and this is why it's so concerning. 7 days ago or 6 days ago, Jamari Butler's at the podium talking about why he's coming back to Nebraska for his senior season, the 6th year, why it's so important to rebuild Nebraska back. And now, Tony White leaves, so he's leaving? Or was it he thought that Terrence Knighton was going to leave and he didn't text him to get a confirmation, or he did text him. Terrence said, yeah, I'm probably out, and that's why he entered. There's some red flag there that raises, at least for me, it raises a lot of concerns, because if Jamari is going to leave, who else? Okay, so let's go back to what I was saying. There are guys on here who you'd have to worry about. Nash and Ty are both gone. They're going to the NFL. MJ Sherman Sr., gone, going to the NFL. But now what about Cam Lenhart, Elijah Judy, Kai Whalen, Prince Will, Keona Davis, Willis McGahee, James Williams? How many of those guys do you think they retain if Terrence Knighton leaves? Well, James Williams is 100% gone. Calls him like a father figure, Terrence Knighton, obviously. Keona Davis, I would assume, is gone. Elijah Judy, I would assume, is gone. Could you find a way to keep Cam, Prince Will, Kai, and Willis McGahee? I would hope so. But then who else? Vincent Shavers. Where's he end up? You're already going to be down to Malcolm Hartzog and Buford in the secondary, having to reload there. It's going to be a defense that's decimated by the portal. And when people come with this nonsense narrative that Nebraska had to cut players anyway, and this is okay, it's not. Now, again, this isn't for sure yet. We don't know what's happening with Terrence Knighton, and I think a lot will end up coming down to what his decision is, whether he stays at Nebraska, stays loyal to Coach Rule, or does he go to Florida State with Tony White, someone who he just met 2 years ago after coaching with Rule for multiple seasons, obviously being with him at Carolina. It's a concerning thing if you're a Matt Rule fan, if you're hoping he does well, because Matt Rule's entire plan is to build an infrastructure where coaches like Tony White can leave, you reload, refill, your players don't leave you in the portal, your starters, your stars, because you have a culture of winners and excellence. Here's one of the biggest issues, and one thing that I think should concern all of us about Nebraska and the situation with the portal. They had such high expectations coming into this year. They had such high expectations after that Colorado win, and after things started to go dark and things went south, they started to not trust what the process was, and they said, like, we had this idea and this vision for how things were going to go. And Matt Rule sold us on this dream. And we thought if we follow our assignments and we do what we're supposed to do and we're in position to win games, then we're going to win. And that's not how things went, unfortunately. The offense didn't pull their weight. The defense was obviously a lot stronger than the offense was this year. And that could put some doubt in some other guys' heads. So now if you have a school like Florida State come in, Ohio State, any school who sees any potential on Nebraska's defense, and they have just as much or more money to offer, they could easily say, hey, come here and play for us. We're going to give you just as much or more money. We're going to give you the equal opportunity. And that player could say, I'm tired of these close losses. I'm tired of being sold these dreams. I'm tired of the mental toll that it takes on me. I want to go somewhere where I have a better chance to win. Something you got to worry about. Anyway, these are all things that are coming up, and this is why I'm concerned. So I tweeted. Where's my tweet? Just wanted to read it to you really quick. So I said, shit's about to get ugly. Mass exodus incoming in response to Jamari Butler. And that's where you saw a bunch of responses where people were basically saying that it's okay, we need to cut players anyway and all that. And that's where I'm telling you, Nebraska's going to have to hit the portal. But the problem with hitting the portal is that wasn't the original plan. Matt Rule doesn't want to be a portal building team. Matt Rule wants to build an infrastructure, wants to go and get high school players and not lose all of his guys. Again, like I started this video with, we don't know what's happening yet. There's still a lot of unknown, and a lot's going to be dictated by what happens with the defensive line coach. And if he does stay, hopefully we can calm our nerves because we realize, wait, the original plan that Matt Rule had is going to stick because we're not going to lose all of those players. Maybe Jamari Butler ends up saying he's going to come back to Nebraska like he originally planned to do. That one was a total shocker out of left field, and I think that's what raised the most red flags for people. I got so many texts this morning, not about Vincent, not about Stefan. It was all about Jamari. Connor, why was Jamari so dead set on coming back to Nebraska for his 6th-year senior season, so dead set on building this program back up, wanting to be a part of the legacy, blah, blah, blah. But now today he's saying he's leaving. And it can only be one thing, his relationship with his defensive coordinator or his defensive line coach. And I'm afraid it's the defensive line coach, and that's why it's so nerve-wracking thinking about what could happen to the entire roster. Dre, thank you for the $10 super chat. I'm worried we lose Shavers and McGahee. Butler's gone. Who else do you see leaving that are potential starters next year? Are Butler and Snow the front runners? Okay, it's piece by piece. Worried about losing Shavers and McGahee? Yeah, I mean, of course. The one thing I would say is you would hope that they would both stay, knowing that they would have integrated parts into this defense because they played significant roles this year. So because they already have that opportunity to be starters right away, why would you leave? They're already getting paid. Those guys I'm less concerned about, but it is a concern. Anybody who has a relationship with these coaches could leave. Who else do I see leaving? Well, James Williams would be gone. There's no question in my mind. James Williams would be one who's gone. I don't know who else has that loyalty to their defensive line coach. And I think that's what's most concerning. It's like fear of the unknown. Like, oh my God, the world could blow up in front of our eyes tomorrow. Keep in mind, I want to caution you. I'm being like very down and negative right now. The world will continue to spin. Matt Rule will go and find new ways to win. He will go and hit the portal hard. They will replace this team with different players from other schools. He'll do whatever he has to do. I think the concerning part is, and what you had hoped for, was Matt Rule had a plan to build this the way he wanted to, and losing your players with just mass attrition is not part of the plan. Matt Rule doesn't want to bring a bunch of guys in, and he doesn't want to lose a bunch of guys. When they were going to cut from 150 to 105, it was okay to get rid of 45 guys who weren't going to play. No disrespect to any of those walk-ons or guys we've never heard of, but it was okay to lose them. You've never heard of some of these guys. I'm scrolling through the roster right now. Cooper Wilson. Let's see. Derek Wacker. Like, no disrespect. Trent Euler. I'm looking at him. So there's a bunch of guys. Evan Taylor. There's guys who I've never heard of, and if you lost them, you could afford to lose them, and hopefully they're going to build back with better freshmen or, whoever transfers in that has potential to be successful. But you don't want to lose your starting players, man. That's the biggest issue. You don't want to lose your starting players or guys who are going to play significant roles next season. People don't understand that, apparently. Are Butler and Snow the front runners? I'd say right now Butler and Snow are the front runners to take over as DC. People, fantasize about getting an outside hire who's a flashy name, but Matt Rule wants to be involved on defense. Matt Rule wants to make sure that he has a say. Matt Rule, keep in mind, at Temple, finished with a 13th ranked defense nationally. At Temple. At Baylor, top 20 defense nationally. At Nebraska, in his first 2 years, number 13, number 20. I mean, he's right on par with what he's done in the past at his other schools. So Matt Rule is the common denominator here. So while you have other variables they're interchangeable, Matt Rule has to be that key piece on the defense who has some sort of a say that leads the way, because he's the one common in these top-ranked defenses over the past however many seasons we just mentioned. Was that 4? Yeah, 4 different seasons Matt Rule's been successful as a defensive head coach, right? We'll see about the coordinators. Obviously, Ryan Walters will be available. Jim Leonard didn't come to Nebraska the first time. Don't know why he would this time, but there are going to be plenty of names to talk about for a different video. Mike says Knighton is not a done deal per Mike Schaefer. Hey, thank you for the $2 super chat, Mike. And yes, Knighton's not a done deal yet, according to Mike Schaefer, Sean Callahan. There's a lot of people who said that's not done yet. So it's just kind of a wait and see deal with how is that going to go. And you really hope Nebraska can retain him. This is the thing. If you go and look, hold up, let me pull it up. Terrence Knighton. I turned off my keyboard. Terrence Knighton. Let's look at his history. How long was he with Matt Rule? So he was a standout defensive lineman at Temple. Then he was a NFL draft pick. He was at Nebraska for 2 years under Rule. 2 years under Rule at Carolina. So 4 years with Rule as a coach, which means if he was going to leave and go with Tony White, that's a coaching culture issue, right? Like, why are you losing one of your most loyal, your right-hand guy, essentially? Matt Rule can't afford to lose guys like that. What makes some of these coaches so great is they aren't losing their key assistants. He would hopefully be able to promote and uplift Terrence Knighton and get him into a better position, not lose him to Florida State to be the same job and make similar money, right? I don't know. He probably makes $400,000 a year at Nebraska right now. What's Florida State going to pay? 6? I mean, Nebraska could afford to pay that, and hopefully they do. I don't know what's going to happen there, but yeah, the Knighton thing is concerning because that's a culture issue, and that's a relationship that Matt Rule can't afford to lose, especially given the impact he'll have on the roster and in recruiting. He's one of the most important recruiters on the staff. Doug, thank you for the $5 super chat. With Jamari transferring, do you think James Williams will go with him? And will this affect recruiting tremendously? You know, it's so funny. I just talked about this, right? Everything has to do with one coach. If James Williams is going to leave, he's only leaving with Terrence Knighton. Right? The relationship he and Terrence Knighton have, it's like he's his dad. He's going to stick with him. So that's a key player, obviously. There are other key players who have that similar type of relationship with other coaches on the staff. But yeah, I'm concerned, and it all has to do with where that coach ends up. So don't know yet. It's all waiting to see what happens with Terrence Knighton. I think the overreaction from me, it comes in when I say, okay, if Terrence Knighton does leave, who do I expect to leave? Well, I expect another 4, I'd say at least 4 starting caliber defensive players to hit the portal and go to a place like Florida State, because Florida State will just buy them, because Florida State would love to have Nebraska's defense, or they can go to other schools, right, where they're going to play right away. Nebraska has such a stud defense. These guys are going to go play somewhere. So, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because people make comments like, well, why would you leave Nebraska? The portal opportunities are going to be harder and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm talking about the premier guys, the guys who are the best of the best, who are guaranteed locked in to be starters at Nebraska, potentially develop into draft picks. Those guys are the ones I'm concerned about losing right now. Anyway, my point is it all comes down to this coaching deal and which coach stays and which players are going to stay with him. It's very interesting how the relationships have now gone from being loyal to your head coach to I'm loyal to my position coach. That's not how it's supposed to be. Matt Rule is supposed to, like, as a head coach, you're supposed to build a culture where they're loyal. It sounds so weird, right? But loyal to the head coach. I don't want to say like loyal to their leader, but you want to be undyingly loyal to that guy. He's the one who gave you the opportunity. He's the one who's giving you the chance to step into bigger and better things. He's the one who's helping you to develop as a coach. He's the one with the most experience. He's the oldest guy in the room usually, right? So Matt Rule's supposed to have players and coaches be loyal to him, not the position coach. So that's a huge issue that Matt Rule's going to have to correct this offseason, and that's going to make it really hard to see who he tries to go with as his defensive coordinator, because he has to pick someone who's loyal to him. It's an interesting situation. Mitchell, thank you for the $20 super chat. Something is massive. I personally don't think we should hire within. Losing Jamari and potentially recruits, you're going to have to get a coach who will help fill those voids. Like Kurt, Dion, we can't solely rely on the portal. Yeah, so the problem is, I 100% agree, they can't solely rely on the portal. The whole goal was to recruit and retain your players, which right now, as everyone likes to point out on Twitter, don't get too flustered yet. We haven't lost a bunch of guys. Jamari Butler's a huge loss. No matter how you paint it, he's a huge loss. People try and say, no, not that big of a deal. He didn't have that big of an impact this year. He took a step back, blah, blah, blah. Jamari Butler's a huge loss. Starting defensive end, stud, has 2 years of production. Plenty of schools will start him right away next year. Potential NFL talent. Dude's a beast. He's massive. I stood next to this guy. He's huge, 6'5". He's a monster. But NFL player. Can't lose guys like that. But if you lose guys like that, you can't replace them right now with guys from high school. Think about this, okay? Just perspective. What is Matt Rule's predicament? His number one predicament right now at Nebraska. He hasn't won yet. He's recruited well, right? He's got the fan base engaged. He has a good coaching staff, at least to some degree. He's trying to bring in Holgersen. He's going to figure out who his DC is. I mean, he's losing the special teams coordinator too, most likely, if he fires him. So the coaching thing's a little up in the air right now, but I am confident he's going to get that worked out. But his number one issue is he hasn't won, right? Matt Rule has to win. So if Matt Rule's going to win, right now, he's got to have his players in position who can win games for him. Well, he's not going to be able to continue this path of I'm going to recruit from high school. He's going to have to say, well, I'm in this precarious predicament where I have to go and get players in the portal just like Curt Cignetti did, just like Deion Sanders did. And if that's the case, it goes away from what he's trying to build. It goes away from the plan. He'll probably make it work. I'm hoping he'll make it work. He's going to have to make it work. But it's not what he originally planned to do. And he's forced into doing it now because we're in year 3, going into year 3. And it is a must-win year. Because yes, I do believe Matt Rule deserves 3-4 years, right? But I'll tell you what, if Matt Rule does not win 8 games next year, hot seat talk is incoming. You cannot have a 5-star quarterback in his second year as a starter with all of the potential and talent Nebraska had around him originally, at least this season, and then not develop that team of young guys into a winner by year 3 or year 2 with that quarterback. Year 3 for Matt Rule. It's a must-win situation, which means you have to go and get players who can win right away. If you would say Nebraska is going to keep their players, they're going to retain all this talent, they're going to retain the guys who they've been trying to develop now for 2 years. Okay, they can fill holes. They can go get a couple receivers, a lineman, a couple 3-4 defensive guys who can all rotate, either start or play. But if you have a mass exodus, it's going to be a nightmare to replace your entire team. You don't want to go and get 9 starters to play next year. That's what it would look like. It would be 9, 10 starters coming in because you need 3 or 4 on offense and you need 6 on defense. That's a freaking problem. Jacoby, thank you for the super chat. If I see a message from you, I will read it. Mike, thank you for the $2 super chat. Just saw McGuire is out as well, per on 3. There you go. McGuire is out. That's not a surprise. People wanted McGuire gone, and it makes sense that he is. The receivers didn't get developed. They didn't look any better this year than they did last. Okay, that's disrespectful. The receivers did look better this year than they did last year, but to be fair, the receiving room was way healthier this season, right? And if you go back to last year, what was the impact they had for Harburg? I mean, it was relatively minimal. And then if you look at now, how much more of an impact did you see for Raiola? Well, it was relatively minimal because Raiola had plenty of opportunities to get the ball downfield and his receivers just weren't making plays, or they weren't getting open, or you blame the offensive coordinator and the coach for not teaching them to do the right thing, right? So whatever it was, McGuire didn't make sense. And you hate to see guys get fired. Like, I don't want to celebrate this. You know what I mean? It's just, these guys have lives. They're trying their best. That's one thing I always go back to. People typically do their best. Not everyone. There's kids who are working at McDonald's right now who aren't doing their best. They're just slacking off and messing around. But I can tell you what, McGuire was doing his best. He's like 24. He's trying to work his way up, get into the coaching ranks. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. But hopefully he goes out and finds something better. But I'm glad that Matt Rule made a move. He had to. Matt Rule, like I just said 1 minute ago, it's do or die. It's win today or get the hell out. Next year is the year. Year 3 is the year. The leash is short. It wasn't a Scott Frost rebuild timeline. It wasn't a 5-year deal. I mean, it was. He got multi-year. But that wasn't the intention. The intention was you're going to win right away. Year 2 is a 7-win season. This year, we said before the year, 7 wins? Absolutely. 8 is more like it. And where's Nebraska at right now? 6. Underachieving. Underperforming based on what Vegas said they would do. Underperforming on what they said they would do in that room. Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola are not satisfied. I can tell you that right now. And that's why these drastic changes are going to come. Versus McGuire, next up's going to be Foley, I'm sure. If it's not Foley, I'd be shocked. I wonder what moves they would make outside of Foley, like to get the right specialists in the room, because their long snapper did not get it done multiple games this year. Their holder obviously screwed it up. There was just some personnel issues, and they're going to have to make some changes either way. Sarah, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Is White taking Florida State to try and get his foot in as a head coach? You know, I think White is taking Florida State because he wants out of Nebraska. It's just the harsh truth. Matt Rule and Tony White didn't have that good of a relationship. I remember at the end of last season, there were reports or people talking about it. I don't even remember who I heard it from or where I did, but that Matt Rule and Tony White didn't get along that well. And that there was some tension and some friction. And Tony White was going to try to get that head coach job. It didn't work out. He came back to Nebraska. Obviously, prime opportunity with so many guys returning on that defense. And now you get to halfway through this season, there's pressure from fans. They're saying, what the hell's going on with Tony White? What's up with the defense? They're giving up 56 points to Indiana. We do not have a pass defense. This is embarrassing. There's regression in certain ways. Obviously, the defense, would you say it looked better this year than it did last? Probably not. There were some personnel issues. You had Tommy Hill, who got beat on like 11 different plays when he shouldn't have been playing in the game. Don't know whose decision that was or who's at fault, but regardless, I think there was a lot of pressure from the fan base. I think Rule felt the pressure from the fan base, and Rule knew he had to make a change or at least make some sort of minor adjustment, and that's when he brought in Phil Snow. And the Phil Snow move probably pissed him off. I think Sean Callahan and Sipple talked about that today in their podcast. Someone sent me a little clip from that. They said that the Phil Snow thing, when it came in, it probably left Tony White a little bit disgruntled. And if you're Tony White and you're sitting here like, I need to be able to do what I want to do and I don't want to be restricted in any sort of way because I'm a multi-million-dollar level defensive coordinator who can go and beat anybody's DC, USC, Florida State, whoever, don't put a leash on me. Let me do my deal. And if you're Matt Rule, at the same time, you're saying, look, Tony, I hear you, but we're not winning games. And our pass defense is shit right now. So we need to figure something out, and I'm going to try and bring someone in who I trust to audit you. And let's make sure we're doing the right thing in every way. And that might have ticked him off. So I think that's probably why he went to FSU. Not because he's trying to find a clear path to being a head coach. If he stayed at Nebraska, it was a perfectly clear path to being a head coach. Stay. You've got a bunch of great freshmen. You've got a bunch of good position coaches around you. Obviously, John Butler didn't have a full season to work with the DBs, but hopefully this offseason he would have the opportunity. And now these younger guys would step up into bigger, better roles, and you could go to the portal, try and get better. But he's not leaving Nebraska because Nebraska was a problem. Nebraska is a great opportunity for him. He's leaving Nebraska because he has a problem with the culture, or he has a problem with the head coach. Nebraska was a great spot for a coach like him to be promoted and elevated to become a head coach. There's zero arguing that. Yeah, anyway, it's tough to hear it, right? It's frustrating. Laser Banks, thank you for the $50 super chat. I appreciate the support. I would imagine that it's hard to want to stay when fans constantly call for your head if you make a mistake. We all want them to win, but it's only year 2 of a rebuild. And now we have some potentially major setbacks. It's a great point, right? Everyone is feeling the pressure. Everyone is feeling the heat. The players, the coaches, the staff behind the scenes. Obviously, the fans are fed up and frustrated. We know what the potential is and that the program deserves more. Right? And so we're frustrated seeing the same shit over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That leads to outbursts and frustrations and booing in the stands or whatever else the players and the staff feels, right? And when you don't meet expectations or live up to your own hype or live up to what you wanted for yourself, you might doubt things and you might say, I need a change. I need something different. And that's what your remark is about potentially major setbacks. If you go through the roster, that's where people were concerned about losing Dline, right? I'm still not worried about Dline. But people were saying, hey, why would Dline stay? Dillon's going to look at this and he's going to say the fans are all fed up and frustrated. There's no good energy around the program because we keep losing games we shouldn't. And Matt Rule's blueprint and path that he said would work hasn't worked. The offense that was supposed to be a top 40 offense this year has struggled. I don't even know where they ranked at the end of it, but they struggled mightily. And all of those minor things they had to fix, such as turnovers. They had to go from negative 17 turnovers, and they ended up finishing at -1. It still wasn't enough for more than one win. Nebraska got one more win than they did last year. And they improved their turnover differential 16. 16 less turnovers. Think about that. Anyway, yeah, it's tough. It's a high-pressure situation with a lot of money involved. And that's just the stakes you're playing for, right? High stakes at Nebraska, right? High stakes if you're a player, high stakes if you're a coach. Man. Let me see here. Caleb, thanks for being a member for 16 months. He says, we must stay positive. We still have a bowl game. Hey, that's another question that people ask. If there's all these opt-outs, who's playing in the bowl game? That's what I want to know. Caleb, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $10 super chat. We aren't the only program that's going to have huge losses. Every team needs to cut down to 105. Yeah, and look, I hear that. And that goes back to what I said earlier in this. I agree that Nebraska's going to have to make cuts, and I'm not concerned about seeing some guys leave because it is what it is. This attrition has to occur. But you can't lose guys like James Williams, like Cam Lenhart, like Vincent Shavers, like Jamari Butler. Those are key pieces who've been developed for years now, at least more than one offseason. We're talking about the freshmen, at least more than one offseason in the full football season, who you've got to have come back, and they're the foundational pieces. And then if there are holes, you can replace them, right? Which I know you agree with this, Caleb. I'm not like arguing with you here. I'm just doubling down on the fact. You have to have your key pieces in position. Otherwise, it can be another long rebuild. It's a transition, and it's doing things a different way that you didn't want to do. Risky, thank you for the $5 super chat, $6 super chat. I appreciate you. Who knew we would be dealing with so much drama after clinching a bowl spot? I kind of expected this. If I'm being honest with you, Nebraska's whole deal was, we needed to get to 7 or 8 wins. And not getting to 7 or 8 was a huge gut punch. 6 wins is what they had last year. 6 wins is, I mean, they could have won 6 last year. So they should have won 9 this year, right? The close loss thing is a huge deal. It's a major deal. So thank you for the $6 super chat, Risky. So we're not going to have any of these coaches for the bowl game. Sorry, I should probably know this, but it's been a while. Yeah, so Tony White's gone. No matter what. He just signed his contract today. I don't remember what the official report was or what they said. I think it's a 3-year deal. But Tony will be gone. If other coaches decide to leave, yeah, they will not be coaching for the bowl game either. Like an assistant, if Terrence Knighton was to be gone, he wouldn't be there for the bowl game. And a lot of these players, the same thing. They aren't going to stay for the bowl game. Now, are there players who will stay and then maybe leave? Possibly, but I think most of them, they want to get their foot in the door at the next school, and they're more concerned about getting the next chapter of their life going than playing in a bowl game right now. That's just my take on it. It's tough. We'll have to see. Jim, thank you for the 789. Lost all respect for Norvell. Scrambling to keep job hires. Oh, keep job. Hires Malzahn, who's never won without Cam. FSU leaving ACC. Lost 10 with a portal-based team. You know, it's an interesting situation for Norvell. It is a desperate situation. Norvell had to go and hire Gus Malzahn, who, you know, he's an OC with a past and a history of success, but wasn't exceptional at UCF. And now he's going to go back to another OC coaching job, and hopefully he can make it work. Now he's trying to take on Tony White, and then he's going to have to do the portal thing all over again. I mean, he might try and buy Nebraska's defense like we're talking about here. So, yeah, it's a tough situation. Really quick, I wanted to do this giveaway the other day because I'm going to pull it up for you guys now, because I bought like a Nash Hutmaker autograph card. I bought some like these awesome Nebraska coasters. I bought a few things that are like very cool that I have in my own house and that I collect. And I wanted to give away a few of them. So I'm gonna do a giveaway of like 4 things plus some merch. And I've done giveaways on my Instagram before. So we're gonna do it again. Just go comment on my Instagram page, anything you want on this new post I just put up. It's right here. My Instagram is Con1R. You can see it right there. So just go there. Like it, comment, anything that has to do with football season, Nebraska, I don't care. Posted some of my pictures from this season. And I'm going to give away the Nash Hutmaker autograph card. It's like a PSA graded card. I love Nash, so bought that. And I've got a few other things plus merch. We'll do 5 winners on this one. On my last post, we had 200 comments, and I picked 6 winners from this. So out of the 200 comments, we got 6 winners. That's pretty good odds to win. And I do giveaways all the time. So yeah, again, if you want to win, go comment on my Instagram. It's Con1R. And yeah, I'll send you guys some stuff because I love doing giveaways. You guys are so supportive with the channel all season. And I want to share in the stuff I collect with you guys because, yeah, it's just nice to have our community together. Okay, let's see here. People are popping source up in the chat. It's funny. I don't like they're asking for sources on other things. So I know other people are in here saying Dana's signed. Okay, everyone's saying Dana has been announced as the new OC. Rod confirmed it for me. Rod, thank you for the $10 super chat. I had a nightmare about you last night, Rod. I'm not kidding you. I was going to text you earlier, but all this chaos that was going on, I did have a nightmare about you. But you're in my thoughts even when I sleep. Thank you for being a member, and thank you for letting me know. Wow, Holgersen announces the OC is massive news because when you're going through this, it's always Matt Rule coming out with some silver lining to get us more excited, right? It felt like Holgersen might not be in the cards because of the way he flirted with the idea that I don't want to talk about anything except for the current because I don't know what the future holds, And then Matt Rule comes in on a big day when we needed a home run and hits a grand freaking slam. People have said, I don't know about Holgersen. I don't know if I really want him to be our coach. I don't know. He's air raid. No. Holgersen is an experienced coach who's coached with multiple coaches, with other coaches who have different philosophies. He has different ideas about offense than Matt Rule does. With a collaborative effort of the two over a full offseason, they're going to be able to come up with a playbook that's not only complementary to Dillon, but works in the Big Ten and will help Nebraska's defense to become, hopefully, just as successful or better than they have been in the past couple of years because they won't have the pressure of having to win those games by themselves. So Dana's a huge one. There are tons of reasons to be excited about him. I don't even need to explain them all to you. We saw what the offense could do in the game against Wisconsin. We saw where they struggled at times this season. And it feels like there are minor issues that could be corrected with different personnel and players who really want it, and an OC who creates a really strong game plan and playbook, has an entire offseason to work with this 5-star QB who now has worked out a ton of the kinks. Say what you want about Dillon. The dude, for a true freshman, had quite the stat line. Here it is. Dline Raiola, stats, Nebraska. Let's see, first year. And I've got videos coming on all this stuff. It's just, this is my reaction video to all the news we're hearing today. But here you go. Dline Raiola as a true freshman in the Big Ten. Let me minimize this. Okay. He was 253 of 380, completed almost 67% of his passes for 2,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And I would argue that 3 of those interceptions were not on him. So Dline had an extremely solid year for a true freshman. I think he ran for a few yards too. Yeah, he ran for minus 68. Took a few sacks, right? So Dline had a good year, and with a competent offensive coordinator, a guy with the experience that Holgersen does have, I really am excited about his future, especially given the fact that he's now had an entire year to struggle and to see what it's like to play at the highest level. Think about it. Most quarterbacks don't come to a Big Ten school and start out the gate. It's rare. And the fact that he did it puts him an entire step up on everybody else. He's going to get his body right. He obviously stayed pretty healthy this entire season. He was banged up a little bit, but no major injuries. And now they're going to go to the portal to go get more players who are going to say, Dana Holgersen, number one, I trust him. Number two, Dline in year 2, I like what he did in the first season. I definitely want to go be a number 1 receiver at a school that has wide open gaps for receivers to come in and play right away. When you've only got Ja'Cory Barney returning, who's kind of their key guy, that's going to be the number 1 receiver until you go and get a big body to get out there with him. So exciting. Dana getting signed is huge, guys. Stock someone else. Thank you for the $10 super chat. I can't open it because it says message retracted. Otherwise, I would. So if I see you say something else, I'll open it up. Let me catch a couple more here. Brendan, thank you for the $5 super chat. This appears like it could be what we needed. Frosty didn't do this, and look at the gigantic hole he couldn't get out of. Trying to have faith, GBR. Hey, Brendan, you need to have faith. I mean, if you went through all the nonsense that we did as Nebraska fans for as long as we did, then right now is the prime opportunity for you to buy in, have faith, and once they finally get over the hump, which it looks like they're going to do, they're so damn close, you're going to reap that reward. So keep the faith. We're close. We're not there yet, obviously, but hopefully after this offseason, things look a lot better. You know, Matt Rule having the balls to kick his assistants to the curb is something, like you said, Frost didn't do until the final hour. And I trust a guy who's loyal to the program and himself over all of his buddies who aren't getting it done. It's okay to fail, but it's not okay to do the same thing over and over when it's not working. Successful people find ways, they pivot, and they want to make sure that they're always doing something where they're leading towards success. Whatever Matt Rule was doing, whatever these assistants were doing, it wasn't leading towards success. And it's okay. Every gazillionaire will always tell you, it's okay to fail, but you got to pivot and find ways to get better. Getting rid of coaches and hiring new ones is the first step. Shout out to Matt Rule, middle of the season, making a change that I've never seen before. And people ask me this all the time. Connor, why are you so confident in Matt Rule? So far, it's been blah, 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 whatever. They're all negative, which I get. We have plenty that we can say negative about the team over the past couple of years. But I try and find the positive sides. I try and find a positive spin where we can say, but would another coach have done this? Well, Scott Frost was here and didn't. So at least we've got someone who's willing to make the changes necessary. 2 years with Dana Holgersen in place. I love it. I freaking love it. Go Dana, man. As William said, go Dana. Tyrell, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. The transfer portal does not mean transferring. They could transfer or they could back out of the portal. Let's just see how things play out. And that's another thing, right? Jamari Butler could be in right now. Vincent Jackson could be in right now. But if Knighton stays, or if, they have a conversation with Rule or whatever happens, they could withdraw their name and end up back at Nebraska. The concerning part about Jamari Butler is that he announced after all of this hype and talk, and I'm not bashing Jamari, by the way. I like him. He's a nice guy. I met him at the Colorado game. He's very cool. So here's the thing. Jamari entering his name after all of the hype this last week with I'm coming back, I want to build back with the seniors, I'm in it for my 6th year, I don't want to leave here unfinished business, Then to enter his name into the portal 6 days later is like a major red flag, And that's why I'm so concerned and why I wouldn't think he's going to come back. Jamari already learned what it was to enter your name and then withdraw it. Is he going to make the same mistake twice? He could, but why would he? Jamari's been through this. Doug, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $20 super chat. We need to realize the portal and NIL changed college football at its core. That's a fact, Doug. Good thing about UNL is they don't have debt. We have money. Just need to keep our heads up. We can't change their minds. We just need to support them. Truer words couldn't have been said. I agree with you. And that's the crazy part to it. What hurts is about your statement is that you're right. And Matt Rule knows you're right. Matt Rule came to Nebraska 2022 and said, we want to build it a certain way. And we're not doing what Deion Sanders is doing. We're not doing what Lane Kiffin's doing or what Jeff Brom's doing over at Louisville. We're doing it our way. We're doing it the classic old school way. And unfortunately, he's fighting against a different era. Matt Rule would have been a great coach with this philosophy 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But now he's being forced to adjust. I'm not saying he can't be successful in the new era. I'm not saying he can't find a way to win doing it these other guys' way. But I feel like you've burned a couple years because you spent this time trying to recruit a roster and how many guys are going to stick, right? Keep in mind, this is all hypothetical. We haven't seen more transfer news. It's not looking like they're going to lose all their freshmen that they're trying to develop. If I'm being optimistic, I cannot freaking wait to see what these freshmen and underclassmen can do next season. Matt Rule showed that he's willing to play them. He showed that he likes to get guys on the field early, and he wants to make sure that they're put into positions where they can learn, they can go out and make mistakes, and they can come back in and be better players for it. So if he is going to follow that path and these guys are going to stay, I freaking love it. He's going to go get a few transfer portals to button things up, and then we're off to the races. I just have concerns that more guys could leave than we're willing to, than he's willing to lose. And when I say willing to lose, meaning he wouldn't cut them normally, like he's going to have to cut some other guys. And that could shake things up because it could force him to make a lot more portal additions than he originally planned for. Last year, Matt Rule added, I think, 7 or 8 players from the portal. This year, I think the plan was probably to add 7 or 8 players again. And if he got into a position where he had to add 20, it would be like, really? We're completely changing the identity, and we're completely changing what Matt Rule stands for and what he believed in, you know? We'll see. It's really tough. He's forced into a situation and just has to make the best of it. Let me see here. Jim, thank you for the 456. Holgersen hire Trump's white loss, major win. Oh, yeah. I do think the Holgersen hire is a way bigger win than the white loss. No question about it. Thank you for the $5 super chat, by the way. The problem is, who do you go and pair up with Holgersen? Not that it's a problem, but the question now becomes, like, if you talk about Holgersen and the type of defenses he's had in the past, he was playing air raid offense. Well, now he's coming to the Big Ten where he's trying to run an offense that can be complementary to a defense. And what type of defense will that be? Is it going to be the 3-3-5 bend don't break, or are they going to run a different style? What did Matt Rule run at Baylor and run at Temple? It's a good question I'd love to look into, actually, now that we're talking about it. But if he brings in Phil Snow, what's the dynamic between the new OC and the DC? I will tell you, I'm extremely excited for Holgersen. Again, I'll double down on it. I love Holgersen's energy. I love his attitude. I love his I don't give a F attitude. I love the idea that he will tell players the truth to their face. It's about executing, and if you aren't executing, then you need to sit the hell down. And he acted on that. He said it in the presser, and he acted on it on game day. I love a coach who's got the balls to back up what he says. Mean what you say is such an attractive trait, right? Holgersen does that. Matt, thank you for the $2 super chat. How much does Nebraska have for NIL? Can we find that info? I don't know if we can find that info. I believe Nebraska spent around $15 million on their roster this year. Ohio State spent between 20 and 25, I'm sure. I don't know what the reported number is for Nebraska right now. I'm sure people have some idea, but I would guess it's below 20 million. I don't think they're at the same level as Ohio State. I do think they are above 15 though. So 15 to 20, I guess. Somewhere in that range. If you think about it, how much are they paying Dline? You know, they aren't like, I'll tell you what, they aren't like Michigan. Like Michigan is paying $12 million to one guy, but it's interesting. It's a totally different scenario, right? Nebraska's NIL collective is a lot smaller. Michigan had Larry Ellison. They had a guy worth $283 billion just write a check. If Nebraska could go and get Warren Buffett to open his checkbook and we say, hey, we just need a quick $10 million for a couple guys. We're going to go get we're going to get 3 players for $3 million each. I mean, it would completely change the game, right? But Nebraska, unfortunately, doesn't have that relationship with Warren Buffett. It sucks. Imagine if they did, man. Thank you for being a member, Sarah. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Steve Wilkes, a good choice. Would he be interested? Did you mention Steve Wilkes before? Uh, I feel like you mentioned him. What is he right now? He's the DB coach for the Panthers. Let's see. No, he was the DC for the 49ers. He was the interim head coach for the Panthers. And then for Charlotte, he was a volunteer advisor. Yeah, I don't know anything about Steve Wilkes. Like what his relationship with Rule would be outside of the 1 year he spent with them at Carolina. What was he at Carolina? Passing game coordinator and secondary coach. Yeah, I don't know. I think that there are other coaches that he would lean to or go to before going to a guy who hasn't coached in college for a while. The last time Steve Wilkes coached in college outside of being an advisor this year was back in 2021 when he was the DC at Missouri. So I'm not sure. Sarah, good question. Retro, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thoughts that Rule looks at Bill Busch is Ed Orgeron any good? I don't know what Ed Orgeron's deal is. I don't think he's going to be a defensive coordinator or a coach anytime soon. I think Ed Orgeron's probably in his 60s and probably done coaching, but who knows? Maybe he gets back into it somewhere. I don't think it'll be at Nebraska. Thoughts on Rule looking at Bill Busch? I would love it. I don't think he will. For whatever reason, I don't think they have a relationship or a strong enough one at least to bring him in, but I would love for Bill Busch to come back, and I think he would. I think if Bill Busch was offered the coordinator job on special teams, he would probably come back, but I don't know. He would definitely be a home run hire, in my opinion, though. Bill Busch is a great recruiter. He's great for Nebraska in general. More likely than not, I would look for him to go with someone he's familiar with or go back to a hire that he already tried, which was Jim Leonhard. Jim Leonhard was someone he tried to approach. Jim Leonhard wasn't interested, obviously, and that didn't work out. But I would look for them first. And there we go. Kurt Johnson, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, former Wisconsin DC Jim Leonhard. Yeah, I think that would be a home run hire if they could get him. I don't even know where Jim Leonhard is today. Let me check really quick. Jim Leonhard. Jim is currently a defensive backs and passing game, defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator for the Denver Broncos. So yeah, this would be a step up in job, right? He'd be able to come to Nebraska, make more money as a defensive coordinator, most likely. I don't know how much you get paid as a passing game coordinator by the Broncos, but I do know he'd probably make more at Nebraska, and he'd be able to get back into college. So who knows? I'm sure it's a name he'll reach out to, but it's anybody's guess, right? There's so many options and so many guys he can go with. Donovan, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Love the channel. What do you think, or who do you think our new DC should be? We have got to stay positive. When the dust settles, we will have to support the team we have left, GBR. You know, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, the attractive name and the exciting name is Jim Leonhard, right? You'd love to see them go out and get a guy like that or like a Ryan Walters. Pause. I don't like Ryan Walters. I think he was a one-hit wonder at Illinois. I think he came in with Bielema. They already had some really good players. They made him look a lot better than he actually is. He goes to Purdue. It doesn't work out. He has a rivalry with Nebraska. I was talking to my cousin about this today. During the Nebraska-Purdue game, he was trying to amp the players up, the Purdue players. He was trying to amp them up and feel like some hate towards Nebraska because he's a Colorado guy. And I just think it'd be a weird dynamic. He's a Big Ten West rival, essentially, from two Big Ten West schools. Probably just leave that one alone. So Ryan Walters, in my opinion, is kind of flush that one out. Jim Leonhard would be attractive, but you go with who you know. You go with your gut. Matt Rule knows I had a top 15 defense at Temple. I had a top 20 defense at Baylor. Who was my defensive coordinator with me through those years? It was Phil Snow. I think the argument people try to make is, well, he's 68 years old. I don't really care. If a guy can coach, a guy can coach. So bring him in, lock in with Matt Rule. Again, the independent factor that has been consistent at all three schools, Temple, Baylor, and Nebraska, where we've now seen 3 top 20 defenses in 3 years, right? Well, 4 years, sorry. The independent factor has been Matt Rule. It's not Tony White. It's not Phil Snow. It's not anybody else. Matt Rule's the only one who's been at all those places. So Matt Rule's going to make this defense run. He's going to be a solid defensive-minded head coach. He just needs to get the right partner in who he can work on the D with him. So bring in Phil Snow, who you're familiar with. You won't have any crazy turnover that way. It won't be an uncomfortable transition like if you brought Jim Leonhard in and had to teach him everything and what your culture is. It's none of that. You bring a guy in who's familiar, and then it doesn't feel like you're making a massive step or a massive change. And he's already been an analyst at Nebraska, so he's familiar with what's going on over there. Mike, thank you for the $10 super chat. With Holgersen signing a 2-year deal, does that tell you either Holgersen has coaches he will bring in or that they have replacements in mind? They need to be quick about them, in my opinion. Okay, well, The wide receivers coach who he last coached with at Houston, I am certain they would try and bring in. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Houston football, what year was that? Here. He was there in 2021. He was there in 2022. He was there in 2023. Okay, so let's see who the wide receivers coach was in 2023. Houston football coaches 2023. I love the research. Okay, I'll do this with you guys so you can see. Include you. So the wide receivers coach was the Keel Shorts. Is that his name? Where is he now? He is at Kentucky. Is that correct? Wide receivers coach at Kentucky. So maybe you go and bring him from Kentucky, or maybe there's another coach that he's coached with in the past. That's my best guess for something they would do, right? So look back to his receivers coaches and look at the best ones. Who's been the most successful? I don't know that this guy's the best one. I'm just trying to give you an example of the type of research I do, but I would guess that he's going to go with one of his receivers coaches that he's familiar with. He's a passing game guy, right? So he's going to have to make sure he gets the right receivers coach in. And I heard that he didn't feel that comfortable with McGuire. I know that there was an instance in practice where McGuire raised his voice at some players and was really loud, and he didn't think that was the right way to coach him. I think the tough coaching was a little aggressive in Holgersen's eyes, which is so funny because the way that he talks in his pressers. But I think that he'll want to get a guy who he has a better relationship with and fill that role with someone who matches his standard, I guess we can say. That's what I'm looking for, but we'll see. Let's see. What else did you ask in that? You said they need to be quick about it, in my opinion. So I would guess by the end of this month, Nebraska has most of their hires in. Like if they're going to go and find someone, we'll at least know what who it's going to be. But if they're going for hires at coaches playing in bowl games, maybe the coaches stay at their school for that. I just don't know how quick they'll be. It could be, yeah, let's bring them in right now and start to get them integrated with our system and our culture and our players. And then that way, maybe they coach in the bowl game and they're off and running in January. But I don't know how fast it will be. I do think, though, I'm actually 100% sure Holgersen's going to be in charge of the wide receivers coach hire. Corey says, who does better in the portal this year, Indiana or Nebraska? I don't know who's going to need to go harder in the portal. That's the hard question. William, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Love your takes, Connor. GBR, drinks on me in Arizona. I appreciate you, William. You're always in the chat supporting our channel. Thank you. Let's see here. Ken, thank you for the $5 super chat. As much as I'm worried about walk-ons with the limit, 105 allows you 4 deep plus. Might be an advantage with the way they practice. More reps. Yeah, I mean, 105 is plenty of players, right? It's just a different way they're doing things. In the past, you had these huge rosters among college football. Now it'll just be, a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter. I think Matt Rule already had kind of a plan in place where if he had this many players, he could break them up into groups to work with each other. But there is an advantage when it comes to practicing, since you're going to have the top guys going against the top guys all the time, and you'll never have I don't want to use words that are disrespectful, but you don't want to have the fluff out there, You've got more of all the dogs who have potential to play or playing against each other, and you don't have guys who are just kind of sideline coaches or sideline motivators. You don't have them out there. But there's a disadvantage too, right? Like they like to have all those guys who can play scout team roles. So it's tough. It is tough. Jackson, thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate the support. I can't open your chat because it says message retracted, but if I see you comment in here, I will respond to it. Magic Not Mike, thank you for the $5 super chat. The boosters need to step up. If this is the new environment, be like Texas and put Lambos out on recruiting day. Can you drive a Lambo in Nebraska? My understanding is Texas has Lambos because they don't get snow and it's not icy. I don't know. Have I driven in a Lambo? I mean, I've been in a Lambo. I don't know if I've driven one, but my understanding is you can't have those on the ice. So Nebraska with Lambos wouldn't really make sense. Now, if you want to be like Colorado and just do it to be cute and flashy, you could do that. But I don't know. I don't know if you can give players Lambo deals like Texas does. But you could be like Colorado and just take pictures with them, I guess. But I do agree the boosters need to step up. I just think the boosters already have. The boosters went out and paid what they had to for Dylan Raiola, right? That was a big step up. Cost them millions of dollars, right? Cost them at least 2.5, something like that. So if you're going to get that type of a financial commitment, you would think they're willing to step up in this new environment. And I don't know what receivers are going to be available and who Holgersen's going to go and try and poach. I will tell you, there are receivers out there who Holgersen's going to want. He's going to see him and say, I need that guy. I've coached him in the past. Hint, hint. I've worked with him, whatever. I know him for whatever reason, and we're going to try and bring him in because I know he can make an instant impact since he's a day one starter at his school he's at currently. Hint, hint. Anyway, I don't know who they're going to go after and who they're going to target, but they need to pay him. And they got the money. I'm not worried about the money. You know what I mean? The money has been running through Nebraska recently. They've gotten all the players they wanted in the portal. Petty, thank you for the $5 super chat. I'm going to see it's going to be a long offseason, Husker Nation. Try not to get too high or too low until the dust settles. For now, we got to trust rules plan. Bingo. It's a long offseason. A lot can change. A lot will change. And we're going to see so many things. Right now, it's going to be darker than it is bright, right? You're going to see the attrition. You're going to see the losses. You're going to see the coaching changes. It's going to be tough. But then, come end of December, you're going to see a game. Come January, after we get this first wave of signees in, you're going to start to see players come to campus. You'll see the second wave of signees, and you're going to see the portal entrance, or at least the guys who come into the school from the portal. And then it's like, oh, wait, off-season national champions once again, you know? That's the hope. I'm hoping for it. I don't know how it's going to go. It's a wait-and-see mode. But yes, this program has a lot of... we got a lot of waves to get through. Let's see. Talked about McGuire being fired already. I didn't talk about this, Dom. Dom says, I don't know if you covered it or not, but did you hear Jamari, Butler, and Gabe entered the transfer portal? I saw Gabe entering, but didn't see Jamari. I talked about the whole deal with Jamari. But in terms of Gabe, he had to go. Love Gabe. Awesome guy. Hard worker. Big body. Started as a true freshman at Nebraska. It was a feat. But the injury bug derailed him. And unfortunately, he just lost his way. Not lost his way. He didn't do anything wrong. He lost his spot because other guys were in when he wasn't. And he's got to go somewhere where he can play and get a new fresh start. There are other running backs in Nebraska who've obviously overtaken him. Emmett Johnson and Dowdell have shown that they're the future, at least next season. And Gabe's not going to get the reps that he requires to fulfill his goals. So shout out to Gabe for coming to Nebraska, for trying to make it work. The injury bug destroyed him, and I just wish him the best. McWilliams, thank you for the $2 super chat. Rule ran a 4-3 at Baylor and a 3-4 at Temple. And at Nebraska, he's run everything. They run a 3-3-5, a 3-4, 4-3. They're a very diverse defense. So I'm confident. Again, I'm confident no matter what happens with the defense because I know Rule is a defensive-minded coach. The main concern I have is figuring out this damn offense. This freaking offense is what held this team back 2 years in a row. Holgersen coming in gives me a little bit of inspiration, but I'm still stressed out at the fact that the offense hasn't been able to work for 2 years with 2 different quarterbacks. 4 different quarterbacks. Jeff Sims, Harburg, Raiola, Purdy. 4 different quarterbacks that never worked. God, got to figure that part out. Mike, thank you for the $2 super chat. Holgersen, $1.2 million a year. Wow, it's a significant payment, but it's worth it. You got to do what you got to do to get your guy. He's going to make $1+ million from somebody, you know? I love it. Here we go. John says, breaking. 4-star tight end Chase Lofton has committed to Florida State. He tells me this is a copy and paste from Twitter. I'm sure. I'm not surprised by this at all. Chase Lofton now having a familiar face with Tony White, who he's obviously met before, can now officially go to Florida State. Plus, he's got Gus Malzahn there. Gus Malzahn's a stud OC, a similar vibe to Holgersen, a former head coach, offensive guru, and Chase Lofton. Hopefully, things work out for him over at Florida State. Not worried about Nebraska's tight ends right now. Not really concerned about many guys on offense. It's all about defense for me in terms of transfers and recruits. Let's see. Jackson, thank you for the $2 super chat. Thank you for being a member. Just out now, Mekhi Bayer enters the portal. God, okay, this is like, bruh. There's certain things you just don't want to see. Let me see here. Yeah, here it is. God. Breaking news. Nebraska starting linebacker. Double down on that. Ugh, you don't want to lose guys like this, man. Nebraska starting linebacker Mekhi Bayer plans to enter the transfer portal as a grad transfer. He had 73 tackles, 3 passes defended, 1.5 sacks in his 2 years with the Cornhuskers. This is what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. This is the shit that frustrates me. You develop, you keep guys like this, not lose them. Makai's a freaking stud. He's got the right energy. He's a culture dude. Why is he leaving Nebraska? He's an automatic starter, right? I know why, but it's frustrating. And it goes back to what I said earlier. Don't even like this shit. It's not like I'm trying to say I'm right, but I said, after this, shit's about to get really ugly. Mass exodus incoming. I was talking about guys like him, like Bayer. I'm talking about guys like James Williams. These are the ones I fear. These are the ones you don't want to lose. And anyone who sits here saying, well, we need to lose 50 players, get the hell out with that. None of you in the chat are doing that. But anybody who's saying it, I've seen it on this post. Here, let's pull this up. Okay, shit's about to get ugly, blah, blah, blah. I got 64 replies. And there's a ton of replies in here saying, see, shouldn't be a shock to anyone when you've got to cut it down. We're going to lose 40 more, but we're not talking about starters, bro. Let's see. Don't we need to hit 50 plus anyway? Yeah. It says Rule said last week, expect to drop 30 to 50 players. That's not my point here. This is not about losing 50 players who you can afford to lose. It's about losing your stars. It's about losing your best players. Look at Nebraska's depth chart. So frustrating to me, man, because it's a tough situation. It is what it is, but it's tough. I'm watching. You're getting a live reaction to see how I would react if Makai Bayer is starting. Like, look at this, Jamari Butler, your starting defensive end, gone. Why? Because he's going pro? No, because he's going to go and help another team win. Makai Bayer, starting linebacker. Why? Because he's going pro? No, because he's going to go win for another team. It's a freaking problem, dude. It's a freaking problem. Jackson, I'm not trying to be negative about your comment. Thank you for telling me this because I needed to know this info since I'm not keeping up with the news while I'm talking to you guys. But it's a freaking problem. You cannot afford to lose your best players. Did someone say official? Hold up. I got to go through all these chats now. Oh, man. I got to read the chat because you guys are the ones keeping me alert and making sure I know what's going on. I appreciate you. Let's see. Mike, thank you for the $2 super chat. Bayer in the portal. Yes, thank you for doubling up on that so I could see it. I appreciate you. Sarah, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $2 super chat. New coach is coming in and could bring portal players. Yeah, so Dana Holgersen, new coach, is going to bring guys from the portal. I don't know how many he's going to bring, but I do know he's going to get at least one receiver. And if it's not one of his own guys, it's someone he's liked and scouted already, or one of his wide receivers coaches could bring someone. So that's all potential. If you go and get a defensive coordinator, the names that we're talking about right now, Phil Snow, wouldn't bring anyone from the portal. Jim Leonard wouldn't bring anyone from the portal. Hold up. If Jim Leonard came, maybe there's a Wisconsin guy who he could pull, right? But I don't know who's going to enter from Wisconsin, and I'm not even thinking about that. The bottom line is, whether coaches come or not, depending on where they come from, there's going to be an emphasis on, sorry, I got something in my eye. There's going to be an emphasis on going and getting the best guy who is available in the portal. So I'm hoping that they just go and find out who that is. And it might not necessarily be someone who's tied, like a coach who's tied to that player, but they will go and get one. So I'm confident either way, Sarah. Chat. Oh, I'm going to do this again because there's a lot of people here and I want to make sure. So I'm doing a giveaway on this post. If you go and like it and comment on it, and on my personal Instagram, Con1R, I'm going to give away merch. I'm going to give away 5 winners. Merch, some collectible stuff that I bought that's like Nebraska related. I've got a Nash Hutmaker autographed PSA card coming in the mail. I'm going to send to one of you. So I'm going to pick 5 winners if you go and comment on this post and like it on my personal page. It's right there, that one. Easy. I did a giveaway on this one too. I love doing giveaways with you guys. So just want to make sure you see it. Because people ask me all the time, how do I get merch? How do I win merch? Well, that's a way to win merch. I've only got a little bit of merch left, but I'm still giving it all away. Okay, Risky, thank you for the $10 super chat. Rule seems to have a backup plan for everything. A coach leaves or needs to go. He's got someone in his back pocket. Say what you want, but I think he is better than what is on the surface. I 100% agree with that. The fact that he is so prepared is attractive, right? The fact that he's so ready for adversity to hit and he knows what his backup plan is going to be shows that he's the head coach Nebraska needs. Again, go back to what I've said in the past. Matt Rule was not the coach Nebraska wanted. He was the CEO they needed. I believe Matt Rule, I know this to be true. Matt Rule is not an expert X and O guy, okay? He's not a guy like a Lincoln Riley or a Dana Holgersen or someone who comes from a great philosopher in football and can go and coach a game and create this crazy scheme, right? What he can do is he can recruit really well. He can manage a staff. He can inspire confidence and promote his leaders. He can hire the right guys who have all of those other qualities that he doesn't have to build a winning program. Matt Rule always has a plan. Matt Rule has shown he always has a plan. He has now admitted, he probably admitted this before, but he has admitted in the last few weeks that he doesn't know everything and that he is still learning. He said it about Dana Holgersen. He said, look, Dana came in and I didn't know all of these things and I'm learning from him. And he's a great coach, great offensive mind, and I'm taking things away and I'm just trying to find ways for us to get better. He's admitted to he's trying to get through the process. And if you're going to hire a coach like Matt Rule, who's coached at Baylor, Big 12, who's coached at Temple, American Conference, right? I think American Conference, whatever it was. He hasn't been in the Big 10 for very long. He has to learn the system. He has to learn what's going on over here in the Midwest with the Ohio States, the Penn States, the Michigans, now the Oregons and the USCs. But the point is, he's always trying to evolve and grow, and he's showing that he's willing to go out and make those right hires. He's willing to have a backup plan. He's willing to do something he's never done before at the expense. Wait, what was I going to say? He's willing to do something he's never done before at the expense of us potentially having some losses in the process, because he wants to make sure that we're building back into the right area. We want to make sure that we're building back into an 8-win zone instead of building into a consistent 6 wins, right? Matt Rule knows that the only way he is going to get better is to make changes, is to grow and learn from all of the mistakes he's had. And if he does that, hopefully we get to 10, 9. 9's probably more realistic. Hopefully we get to 9 wins and then build on that and get to 10. Hopefully. I say that and then you take my hope for like an expectation. I don't know what to expect. I don't know, but Matt Rule does inspire confidence. Thank you, Mike, for clarifying your spelling of Mackay. Thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate you. I'm getting hot in here. I'm going on these rants, guys. I'm fucking sweating. Off topic. Penn State versus Oregon will be a banger. Rod, thank you for the $2 or the $20 super chat. Thank you for being a member. Here's my donation to keep Pot Roast in Lincoln, GBR. Imagine if Pot Roast would actually stay. Imagine if they could offer him enough to stay. I haven't seen anybody confirm that Terrence Knighton's staying in Nebraska. Just checking Twitter real quick, guys. Just seeing any updates, you know? I don't see anything yet. See some Dana Holgersen stuff. See some stuff about Christian Jones. I don't trust anything till they sign on the dotted line on Wednesday. Still nothing about our boy Terrence Knighton. Okay, Doug, thank you for the $2 super chat. Thank you for being a member. Sue for the D-line and Carricker for DC, LOL. You know, Doug, Sue for D-line would be very interesting, but it would be a first-time defensive coach or a defensive coach for him, right? It'd be a first time being a defensive coach. Yeah, he got out of the NFL like 3 years ago. He's never been a coach. So Sue would be interesting. Carricker is a great talking head. Carricker is not ready to be a DC at Nebraska. If Carricker wanted to be a DC, he needs to go start off at a smaller school and build his way. But I think Carricker needs to stick to his day job because he's great at covering Nebraska, and we love his interviews. So we'll start looking at guys who are a little more proven. But those would be fun ideas. Okay, I'm managing the chat. I'm sorry, guys. Now I'm managing the chat. I've got my stream pulled up. I'm managing the chat. I'm trying to manage all my news. I have 7 tabs open. So I've got 9 million things in my head. I need to reset for a second and think about where I'm at because I've got chats to get to and I've got to close a couple tabs. So give me 2 seconds. I got too much in my head. This is the great reset. Thank you for bearing with me. Perfect. I think we purged it and we're back to reset. Whew. Okay. Rod, I started with your chat and we were right below you, right? Yeah. Then we got to Doug. Okay. Now we can scroll down. Brett, thank you for the $5 super chat. We need to pull a Kurt Signetti with our DC hire and pull someone that can bring stars from their really good defense. Yeah, I just don't know what DC you go and get that's successful right now that you would be able to poach some of their players, right? You look at schools who lose their head coach like they're a wounded animal. I'm telling you this because this is the research we can do. So a wounded animal last year was UCLA. Wounded. They lost Chip Kelly, but they had a fantastic defense. So the coach, D'Anton Lynn, ended up at USC, and he took Kamari Ramsey. Who else did he take? I believe they took a linebacker. Oh, another school in that same exact position was Oregon State. They lost their head coach to Michigan State. What's his name? Something Mascarenas, the linebacker. He went to USC. I believe a corner went to USC as well. So if you poach from a school who's already losing some of their, some of their key pieces, you can then try and retain, or that DC can try and retain some of his talent and bring them with him. So that's something you would look for. I just don't know what defensive coaches are going to be available who Nebraska would want to go after right now. I haven't done any of the research. It's hard to do it all off the top of my head. I've got so many things in my head. So many things we're talking about. But Brett, that's a good idea. What are people saying, Pelini? John says Connor needs to block people from saying Bo Pelini in this chat. Who's saying Bo Pelini? Hilarious to think that Bo Pelini would ever be an option. I haven't seen that in here. But if people are saying Bo Pelini, you guys are funny. Let's see. Think Butler will be the DC for the bowl game. I wouldn't be surprised if Butler was the DC for the bowl game. No, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Logan says Christian Jones is locked in. I don't believe a word these dudes say until they sign on Wednesday. I'm just going to be real with you, bro. I don't believe a word any of these guys say. It is what it is. Retro, thank you for the $5 super chat. It's official for Holgersen. If wide receiver coaches leave, what's the odds we can still bring in the Oklahoma commit or Michael Terry? Michael Terry is a tough one. I think that he's probably going to Texas. I think that's a really tough one to bring in. There's no like official word on him. There's people who lean one way. I think they're leaning Texas for the most part, but there hasn't been much smoke in terms of him coming to Nebraska. Cortez Mills is coming to Nebraska. He's gonna flip commitment. I don't know when. I think it was supposed to be on Tuesday. I don't know. People have been reporting on. The only reason I'm even saying it is because other people reported on it on Twitter and kind of broke that news. I don't like to report on things or react to things until they become public. Out of respect for these guys' commitments, but it's been all over Twitter now, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I think Cortez Mills is committing tomorrow, is my understanding. That's a big one. Nebraska's getting some good recruits still, right? Cortez Mills, not Jamar Mosey. Is it Isaiah Mosey? Is that his name? Let me check really quick. Yes, Isaiah Mosey. Jamar Mosey's his dad. So yeah, Nebraska's still going to get some good receivers. Trojan Blade, thank you for being here. He's got a great Nebraska channel. He's awesome. I got him a Prize Picks deal this year. I hope that went well for you, bro. I hope that went as well for you as it did for me. It really helped our channel out. Let's see here. Let's see. Connor Hayden, check your texts. Cam Lenhart is next. Dude, why? Is the Cam Lenhart news out yet? You know, I don't break like recruiting news for players, but if a dude's going to transfer and I got to mention it. So up next is Cam Lenhart, apparently, from a trusted source. All right. Yeah, those are the ones I'm worried about, guys. And obviously he hasn't popped it up yet, but I made this comment earlier where I said, let me read it again. Shit's about to get ugly. Mass exodus incoming. If that is true, what I said, that would also probably mean Terrence Knighton's not going to be here next year. So if it's not public. So if Terrence Knighton is not going to be here next year, then that would make sense why these defensive players are leaving. The ones who are tied to Terrence Knighton. Think about that, guys. Let's go back to the depth chart. Cam Lenhart is next. God, I'm so happy you texted me that and so mad you texted me that at the same time. Like, I don't want to hear this shit. Okay, here we go. Jamari Butler, your number one defensive end, gone. Okay? Ty Robinson, your number two, well, your other number one defensive end, gone. Cam Lenhart is gone next. You heard it here first. He's gone next. Then you've got Bayer gone. Okay, just look at the first string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of 11 players who started for Nebraska on defense this year will not be playing on this defense next year. Then you go to the second string. Cam Lenhart, gone. Elijah Judy, is he next? Probably. What's going to happen to Kai? Don't know. Prince will? Don't know. Javen, gone. Vincent Shavers, hope they keep him. Sierra, hope they keep him. I mean, all the other guys are young. James Williams, he'll be gone too. So this tweet I made, this one right here, was not about the 50 players who could leave Nebraska that have to leave Nebraska. It's about the guys that they can't afford to lose. Let's see here. See, I see this stuff and I don't know what to make of it, right? Like Ryan says, Jim Leonard's trending and says he's coming to Nebraska per Wisconsin sources. Like I see certain stuff pop up and I'm like, what's that? But I can't even go and do all the research to see if there's anything out there that exists, right? But I don't believe that there's any truth to it. I just see stuff pop up in my chat and I look for you guys to verify stuff. Okay, let's see what this is. Let's see. Nothing. I see a Ja'Cory Barney tweet where he's excited. Anyway, there's nothing else pressing right now that I'm seeing on Twitter. Thank God. Isaac says that Cortez posted an OU jersey. I'd expect him to stay. That's interesting. I don't know when he posted that. The Cortez thing's been going on all week. Corey says Lenhart had half a sack all year. What are we going to do? Corey, the problem is when you lose your players who are being developed, you get jammed up because you're trying to build up a plan where you let the younger guys step into bigger roles as they get older, right? The idea that you can just afford to lose all of your young guys who you're developing is a huge problem. You know what I mean? So anyway, there's a lot of rumors. Dion says too many rumors. There are. There's unlimited. I get a billion things sent to me every day. But yeah, see, like this is what Ryan texted me in. It says from Badger Recruiting. Don't even know what this is. It's a page with 13,000 followers. No idea who they are. Like it's a fan page probably, right? It says Nebraska accounts are lobbying. Yes, they're serious. Yes, they think they can get him, or they can. They think he would consider the job. Like someone tags me that. No offense, Ryan, but it means nothing. So it's like I see so many things like that I get tagged in. The reason I'm showing it is just to give you guys an idea of what I see on Instagram and Twitter. It's nonstop. So I have to filter through and look, and it's like, what is this? Is this something that's meaningful or is it just some nonsense? You guys can send me and tag me and whatever you want. I'll look. But there's a lot to filter through because there's a lot of fluff online, which is what Dion's point is. There are way too many rumors and just way too many things that pop up. Let's see. Silver says, everyone plug in a name of somebody entering the portal that will make people in here lose their shit. Sierra Wright. People would lose their shit over Sierra Wright. One of the most promising guys at Nebraska. Ja'Cory Barney Jr. Lose their mind over Ja'Cory Barney Jr. Dude, hell yeah. The good thing is the offense I don't feel concerned about. I think the offense is really tied to Dline, you know? So if the offense is so tied to Dline, why would any of them leave? They're not going to go find a better quarterback to play for, and they're not going to get a position where they can start right away, you know? Ken says Sierra Wright can't possibly be leaving. Well, it was a joke, Ken. No, we're just plugging names in. People are just saying who would react, you know? Anyway, and Ryan, you can... Yeah, I'm messing with you about the fluff. I was just showing you guys the type of fluff I get online. I get a lot of nonsense. But this one would make people go crazy. Emmett Johnson entering the portal. That would make people go crazy. What's this say? Let me check Twitter again. I'm just checking everything. I like to stay on top of it. Nothing yet. Nothing here. Yeah, there's nothing. I think we're pretty caught up, guys. I think we're caught up on most of the Nebraska news. We're not seeing any drama right now. It's all waiting for Terrence Knighton. Everything is about Terrence Knighton. Jacob, you said Ja'Cory posted a meme. You don't know what that's about. That's about Dana Holgersen getting hired, I think. That's about him being excited for Holgersen coming to Nebraska, because I think a lot of the players like the Holgersen energy. And obviously Holgersen was a big fan of Ja'Cory Barney. So that's a positive. Let's see. Zach says Barney is tied with Shavers and McGahee. Well, if that's true, which I think you're probably right, if that is true, that would be freaking awesome to see all three of those guys stay. Max, thanks for being a member. He says, guys, the sky is not falling. We're just the first school that is having players and coaches leave. This will happen everywhere. It's 1,000% true. It is true. Skurs News says if Knighton leaves, Rule has big problems in more ways than one. Yep, I agree. I said it at the beginning, but since we've got 800 people here, I can say it again. If Knighton leaves, it's an issue in terms of retention of the players they want to keep, because a lot of players are tied to Knighton. But more importantly, if Knighton leaves, he's losing one of his most loyal coaches. He's losing a guy who's been with him at Carolina and now at Nebraska, a total of, I believe, 4 seasons. If Knighton leaves to go with a coach to a school who, first off, the coach is a guy he's known for 2 years, Tony White. But the school is a Florida State who's going to have to rebuild from scratch. They were a 2-9 football team this year, something like that, 2-10. They're terrible. Why would he leave a place like Nebraska where he's got this whole pipeline built out, where they're going to have success? I mean, they're in position, they're growing. He's with a coach who obviously respects him and cares about him, has kept him around for a long time. Why would he leave him? I think that shows a bigger issue within the staff and the culture and the loyalty to Rule. And how is Rule losing one of his most loyal guys, or supposedly one of his most loyal guys? I get why Tony White left. It makes sense. But yeah. Corey says, Barney, Shavers, and McGahee are the 3 most important guys on the team. I don't know if they're the 3 most, but they are 3 of the most. Yes, they are 3 of the most. Barney is up there in the top 3 with Dylan Raiola. Shavers and McGahee are close behind them, 100%. 100%. Now I see a bunch of dumb comments. Jackal says, based on the guys who have left already, it tells me that Knighton's gone. Yeah, I think that's true. And if Cam Lenhart, he hasn't announced yet. If Cam Lenhart announces today, I mean, that almost certainly tells you that he's gone, right? Because now you've got like the entire defensive line going, all the starters. So James Williams would be shortly after. Anyway, crazy. We'll have to see. A lot of trolls in the chat now. So now I'm like, okay, I can't read the chat anymore because I can't get any fake news and then tell you guys some nonsense. Trusty says, why is Knighton such a big deal as a coach? His veteran D-line got pushed around plenty this year. The veteran D-line actually was outstanding for the most part. And Nebraska's one area of concern on defense, pretty much the entire season, was their passing, back the secondary and their passing defense. So Knighton's guys were constantly getting pressure. They had stopped the run consistently. You look at what they did against Ohio State, completely neutralized 2 of the best backs in the country. You look at what they did against Caleb Johnson in Iowa, outside of one play where the coaches had their guys in position, should have had that tackle, should have obviously beaten Iowa that day. They had 2 days that I watched where Nebraska's defense really slipped up on the interior. It was against Indiana and it was against Illinois. But in other huge moments, they stepped up, they held their own, and they looked really good. And they did it for 2 years. The improvement you saw out of Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmaker, and some other guys, that jump they made was significant. And Terrence Knighton gets a lot of credit for that. So Terrence Knighton's a big deal, in my opinion. Really good coach. And again, more important than that, his ties to these recruits is huge. And when you're a coach like Matt Rule, who has a plan and you want to build a program in a certain way, you can't lose your coach, who's the one, he's like the glue, holding them together. You want to build your program, then you got to keep the key pieces who you're building with. Skurs fan says, who will play in the bowl game? I'll tell you who will play. A lot of guys who are backups this year. A lot of backups are going to play. Caleb says, what's our likely bowl appearance and opponent? There's tons of stuff about this. Nebraska bowl game predictions. I mean, there's so many I've seen. People are still saying they think it could be the Music City Bowl with LSU. I've also seen matchups that said, what was it? They said the guaranteed rate bowl against like Texas Tech. Here's this one. It says from ESPN, guaranteed rate bowl against Duke. Oh, no, sorry, against Texas Tech. And then this one, Mark Schlabach predicts Nebraska versus Duke in the Mayo Bowl, which would be in Charlotte. This other one has Nebraska going to the Pinstripe Bowl to play Pittsburgh. And this one has another one's Brett McMurphy from Action Network, Nebraska playing Louisville in the Mayo Bowl. So I think, could be any combo of those. We'll have to see. Still a little early. We won't know until Sunday next week. Maybe we do a live stream on Sunday and I do like a bowl reaction or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm just looking for any more news, guys. I'm looking. Just sitting here. People are saying how Dawson Merritt is locked in. He says, I'm a Husker no matter what. Well, this is promising. So, again, I'm nervous because right here, Matt Schultz says, hey, Connor, do you think Dawson decommits? He says, right here, it says, I'm a Husker no matter what. He posted that 3 minutes ago. So, it says he's going to remain strong with his commitment. That's from Black Shirts. So, hopefully it's true, right? Hopefully Nebraska keeps Dawson and some of their other big names because you don't want to lose your biggest guys. And that's a big one. Let's go look at Nebraska's recruiting class. Nebraska football recruiting class. Let's see who their key guys are right now. Okay. Right now they're ranked 20th nationally, 6th in the Big Ten. It's pretty damn good. Blue chip rate, 37%. This was much lower under Scott Frost. It was like 19%. Less than 20 always. Dawson's the top commit in the class. Thank God they're keeping him, it sounds like. Malcolm Simpson, defensive lineman. This is one that if Knighton announces he's gone, it's kind of nerve-wracking, right? So Malcolm, Isaiah, he'll stay. Isaiah's dad's on the staff. Christian Jones, he's from Nebraska. You would think he would stay. Again, nerve-wracking if coaches leave. TJ Lateef, you would think would stay. Cade, defensive lineman. But look at some of the best players in the class are linebackers and D linemen, right? Who else you got? Jeremiah Jones. I don't know what's up with him. I think people were worried he would go to Missouri or something, but I think he's pretty locked in. Marion Parker, I'm not worried about. Juju Mark's not worried about. I think he wanted to come for money, right? He was happy about the paycheck. Bryson Weber, yeah. So anyway, we'll see. Recruiting class still intact. Let's see. Lamb Chop says new DC ideas. We've talked about it a little bit today. We talked about Jim Leonard potential. We talked about Phil Snow. We talked about John Butler. Who else did we talk about? I think those are the main ones. I was kind of under the impression that Rule would want to go in-house. Maybe a John Butler or Phil Snow would make sense because Rule still wants to have his hand in the say of what's going on. Cracker says Robert Saleh's a really good DC. You know, he is a good DC. I don't know how he'd be for college. He was good. He was good in the NFL. Who's chat want for DC? That's right. Chat, you got to tell us who you want. Give me your number one choice for DC. Just last name in the chat right now. Scott says, thank you for being a member, Scott. He says, didn't I see that Coach T. Knight removed all his Nebraska stuff on his social media last summer, then put it back up shortly after? May have been upset about something, now probably leaving. Yeah, you know, there have been a couple times when the social media goes crazy because Knighton does something funny. I'm not sure what it was or what it would have been. I don't remember. But he has done stuff in the past. Let's see here. Oh, shoot. There we go. I got super chats to respond to. Okay, Ken, thank you for the $10 super chat. What if, hear me out, what if some players are entering the portal with intent to stay to get to leverage a better NIL deal? Now, this could make sense, Ken, but given the state of the program, I'm a little weary of that being the reason they're entering the portal, right? I think that they're probably entering the portal because they're more nervous about what's going to happen with their coaches, less about let me try and leverage and get some money out of it. That's my guess, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I hear your point and I get it. I'm concerned with the timing of everything, that it's more so linked to these coaching changes, you know? And they're like, well, if my DC isn't here, I'm not staying kicking around for this. I don't want to get a new DC and have an entirely new defense. We already lost a bunch of seniors from the D anyway. Let me go and reset. It's just interesting and odd timing. Why would Mekhi Bayer, a starting linebacker at Nebraska, enter the portal? How many other big time schools, a Big Ten school, is going to offer him a guaranteed starting job next year, right? The only one would probably be like a Florida State with Tony White, who's familiar with him already and loves him. So that's why I'm tied to this idea that it's probably not money. It's probably with the coaches. Thank you for being a member, Rod. Thank you for the $10 super chat. This reminds me of the fire scramble scene from Jerry Maguire. Show me the money. I haven't seen it. But I'm glad that you put that in there, because I'm sure there's 100 people in this chat who understand the reference, and I'm one of the few who doesn't. Maybe I'm too young. I don't know, Rod. I'll have to look it up later. Spark, thank you for the $2 super chat. Bayer is in the portal. Yes, sir. I saw that one. We talked about it a little bit ago. It's a really tough loss, let me tell you. You do not want to be losing your starting linebackers. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Shit's about to get really ugly. Mass exodus incoming. I wasn't joking when I said this could be bad for Nebraska when you lose your best coaches and recruiters, you know? Let's see. We're now loaded in with some of the people who, or some of the defensive coordinators who the chat said they wanted. John Butler, Shenander, Sala, Nick Saban, Jim Leonard, Glenn Schumann, Leonard, Pelini, Coach JB. That's a good one. Walters, Leonard. Walters, Real TJ is the first one who said Walters. Interesting with Walters, because I don't know about the Walters deal. I don't know is Walters actually a good DC, or was he a one-hit wonder at Illinois? You know, everybody's saying they want Leonard. Jim says he wants Leonard. Alex says he wants Leonard. Max thinks it'll be Voracek. That could be it. Leonard. I think people like Leonard because Leonard's already proven himself, you know. Brandon brought up Elijah Robinson. Elijah Robinson is an interesting one. So Elijah was the defensive line coach, I believe. Was he the defensive line coach for Temple? I think so. And now he's the defensive coordinator at Syracuse. Syracuse has the 68th ranked defense nationally. Syracuse famously upset Miami. 11-point underdog. Upset Miami. Won by 4 on Saturday. So Elijah Robinson, relationship with Rule, yes. Would he leave Syracuse right now? Would he be asked to leave Syracuse is the proper question. I don't know that to be true. I don't think there's any idea that he would be invited over to Nebraska. People are saying Foley has to go. Rod says, how the hell have you not seen Jerry Maguire? I'm sorry. There's some things I haven't seen. It's funny. You asked that. Like when I talk to people about The Office, I'm like, how the hell have you not seen The Office? So I get it. I understand. Live Free says, can't believe we can't find a damn kicker or a snapper. We found a kicker. John Hull is a kicker. The kicking wasn't an issue at the end of the season. The problem is the snapping. So I'm not too concerned about John Hull. Ken says it's going to be Butler. He was a de facto DC for the Bills with Voracek as the assistant DC. I could see that happening. If Phil Snow's not the DC, which Pretty Sarah, she thinks he will be. She says Phil Snow will be our DC. Rule brought him on because he knew this was going to happen. That's what it felt like, right? It felt like he went out and got a guy who he could groom into his next DC for when Tony White left. So it would make sense. Jackson, thanks for being a member. Thanks for the $2 super chat. Don't know who he is, but who is Schumann? Oh, you don't know who Glenn Schumann is? I'll pull him up for you right now. Here it is. Bang. He's currently the DC at Georgia. He before was the linebackers coach and the co-DC who got promoted in 2022, the year Rule got hired. And before that, he was at Alabama. He had a quick rise. It went straight from Alabama graduate assistant, hopping over with Kirby to be a linebackers coach, and then got promoted into being the defensive coordinator. So that is who Schumann is, who people are talking about in the chat. Obviously, you guys understand why the Schumann comments are funny, because obviously Nebraska's not going to get Glenn Schumann, as you know. Let's see. Catman Kitty says Brett Bielema throwing shade at Lane Kiffin on Twitter was hilarious. Yeah, if you guys saw the other day, Lane Kiffin was trying to make an argument about why Ole Miss deserved to be in the playoff. And then Brett Bielema fired back with a whole explainer about why Illinois deserved to be in the playoff and why Lane is right, but why Lane, in explaining his point, actually made more sense for Illinois. That was pretty funny. Bielema's a funny coach. He's rubbing off on me. Hate Illinois. Don't like that Bielema's at Illinois, but he is a character. And I do appreciate characters in college football. They're here for entertainment, you know? Drew says, let's change the name of Memorial Stadium to Kinnick West. That's... All right, Drew. Got an Iowa fan here. Risky, thank you for the $5 super chat. What's the best site for seeing who's in the portal? I'm hearing a lot of names, but not seeing them on 24/7. Hold on. Let me see if I can locate this for you. Might be On3. So I use On3. But it's not, they're not always updating it that fast, you know? It is updated because they've already got Stefan in it. So this is the one I use. So if you go to On3, and you go to the transfer, it's just type, I'll show you how to get there. On3 transfer portal, just search On3 transfer portal in Google. The first one that pops up, you click. Once you're in, you're able to sort by player, or you can sort by year. I'll go to 2025. Well, we'll do 2024 since that one was complete. If you go to 2024, you can see their school, you can see where they ended up going, and then you can see their ranking. The bottom is their high school ranking. The top is their transfer ranking. You can see their date. So this guy transferred as late as August 23rd, right before the season, from Buffalo to Alabama State. He was a 3-star recruit out of high school, 3-star recruit in the portal. If we go to 2025, let's choose linebacker. We'll see if Stefan Thompson's in. So if you scroll down here, you can see on December 2nd, you've got 280 total entered. But on December 2nd, Travion Barnes is in. 1 second. Christian Boyven is in. And then Stefan Thompson's right here. They don't have his ranking as a portal player yet. However, they do have his ranking as a high school player. He was a 3-star. And if you click his name, obviously it will show he's in the transfer portal, Nebraska, 2 undecided. So this is probably my favorite. Actually, it is my favorite location to scout portal players. And then I can go over here and search by QB, running back, whatever, and you can see everything. This will be updated though. This is the first day of the portal, really. Like it's not complete, and it's very vague. So give it some time, and then maybe a week from now it'll be popping. There'll be 1,000+ players in there, and you'll really be able to do some research on receivers and everything else. Michael Cobb says the Platinum Board is saying to watch out for Jeff Collins. Another one I totally forgot about. Jeff Collins was the head coach at Georgia Tech. He was actually the head coach of Jeff Sims, a quarterback who was maybe not recommended, but vetted by Jeff Collins. And obviously Matt Rule, with his relationship to Jeff, went and pulled Sims from the portal. Jeff Collins is a defensive-minded coach. He didn't work out at Georgia Tech. He was let go, and this year he was the defensive coordinator at North Carolina. With Mac Brown being fired from North Carolina, it begs the question, does he come to Nebraska where he could unite with a Matt Rule? They have not coached together in the past. However, he was the head coach at Temple after Matt Rule left. So interesting name, Jeff Collins, the Platinum Board. I don't have a membership to the Platinum Board. People send me stuff from there all the time. It's a paid website where you can get Nebraska news. I'm sorry, my voice is going out again. It's a paid membership site where you can get Nebraska news and stuff that's, not being reported on yet. It's where a lot of people will go and they'll look at news. Like if I wanted to, I could make an entire YouTube channel just taking other people's info from the Platinum Board and saying, I'm reacting to a report I heard. And really the report I heard is just from the Platinum Board, which is a site I pay. I don't know what the membership is, $20 a month for, and all this info is in there. So watch out for Jeff Collins would make sense. I do agree that'd be a defensive coach that Nebraska could target. Let's see. Jim, thank you for the 456. FSU not above bounty for players with coaches. What does that mean? FSU is not above bounty for players with coaches. They're not above paying their players. I mean, they'll go and poach every player they can. FSU will do whatever it has to win right now. They are down bad and desperate. Let me tell you. Everyone needs a second chance. Carl Pelini. Like, what are we talking about? Carl Pelini. Damian says Mel Tucker. I didn't like Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker went to Colorado, and then Mel Tucker went to Michigan State after that. There's a little bit of a rivalry with Mel Tucker. I don't like Mel Tucker. Although I do think Mel Tucker got screwed. You guys know his story. He got totally screwed. It's all lies. I mean, he did some stuff, but kind of BS the way the girl spun the story, you know. He's an idiot, no question, but I think the chick spun the story for money or to get him out, which was tied to money. If Rule doesn't do any of the X's and O's on the offense or defensive side of the ball, he better earn his salary at $72 million in the portal. Hey, look, Rule is going to get his ass in there working. Rule is going to go hard, and he's going to try and find the right players to make this thing work. So I'm optimistic he will, and this is a do or die season for him. Rule will be going hard trying to make sure that Nebraska is in a position to compete next year and win games, because it's not even compete. Take the word compete out of it. Rule will be going hard to make sure his team is ready to win, because they have to win right now. It is a do or die season going into 2025. If you imagine Nebraska wins 6 games next year and loses Raiola to Georgia or something, could you imagine that? What would that look be? Well, I'll tell you what, if that happened, Matt Rule would be on the hot seat. So he's coaching for his job today. Today he's putting the work in to improve on next year. We'll see. It's crazy. Okay, before we get out of here, one more time, give anybody who wasn't in here before the chance. If you go to my Instagram, I'm doing a giveaway. I'm giving away some Nebraska collectible stuff. I'm going to do 5 winners. Nash Hutmaker autograph cards, some other stuff I bought. I'm going to give away merch. 5 winners. If you like the post and comment on it, anything about Nebraska football or my post, I don't care what you comment. I'm going to pick 1 winner from the chat, though, or from the comment. So, yeah, you guys always ask me how to get stuff, and I do giveaways all the time. So here's another prime opportunity to jump into a Corn Craze giveaway. Corby says, McGuire fired. Can anyone validate, or am I seeing BS? Yes, he was fired. No, he's not fired. He's rumored to be not coming back. And I think that was from Husker Online is where someone said that came from. So we'll see once that breaks. But right now, it sounds like he won't be back. And I wouldn't be surprised, right? The Garrett McGuire thing was kind of, I don't want to say a rumor, but it was an expectation. Cool Kid Bird, what's your IG? It's Con1R. Here, I'll pull it up again. It's right here. If you look, CONN1R. Easy to find. Zach says the real question is, if Butler doesn't get the DC job, does that mean he might be out? It could. It could. I don't know. I don't know if they could say, hey, we're going to give you a co-OC or a co-DC title. Maybe that'd be a deal. It's interesting. How good was Butler, and how much does Rule trust Butler? There are a lot more questions than answers right now. You know what I mean? Josh says, Connor, what are your thoughts on McGuire? Dude looks like he could still be in diapers. Yeah, I don't care about his age. I don't care about how he looks, right? I care about the effectiveness he had in the program. And unfortunately, I didn't see a lot of improvement from 2022 to 2023. 2022, I tried not to judge him too much because he had a bunch of receivers who went down early with injury, and then he was limited with a quarterback and an offense that didn't really do the receivers any favors. So I tried to lean a lot of my my critique into 2024. No, sorry, was it 2022? No, 2023 is the season I was referring to. I'm sorry. 2024 is the season where I tried to critique him and say, okay, have we seen some improvements? And unfortunately, I didn't see that many improvements. If you're going to be a Big Ten wide receivers coach, if you're going to be the receivers coach at the University of Nebraska, I would expect more out of you. And since I didn't see more out of him, I think it was time to go. And I would hope that that is official. I would hope that he's gone and that they go and find someone else who can do a better job. It's time to win, buddy. It's time to either win today or get the hell out, because Nebraska is spending way too much money on coaches who aren't delivering. That's the bottom line. Doug says, how did you become an Ole Miss fan? I'm not an Ole Miss fan. I like Ole Miss because I like Lane Kiffin, but I just went to the Ole Miss Georgia game this year because I go to games every year all around the country. I'm trying to visit every stadium, every big-time stadium. So I went to the Ole Miss game. against Georgia. It was freaking awesome. And I'm a college football fan. That's all. I go to games and I have jerseys and shirts from every school in the country. I'm a Nebraska fan through and through, but I like other teams when I go and visit them. Caleb said we made a bowl game and people want to fire a 2-year coach already. Sounds like Nebraska. I'd rather agree with Drew about Ferentz than agree to that. So, Caleb, 6 wins was not the objective this year. 6 wins is not the standard. 6 wins is failure. 6 wins is unacceptable. Matt Rule doesn't need to be fired for 6 wins after year 2, but other coaches and other people need to be held accountable. So Matt Rule has to look around the entire program and say what went wrong, because 6 wins is a failing grade. If I were to come back home, I mean, I did all the time. I came back with Fs. You know what my dad did to me? He yelled at me. He took shit away from me. I got in trouble for failing. Okay? So he couldn't fire me from his house, unfortunately, because I'm sure he would have rather done that. But because he couldn't fire me, I got disciplined. So these coaches or these players need to be dealt with accordingly. And in this situation, the way you deal with them is you let them go and you clear their energy of the building. If they are not here to win, they have to leave. And unfortunately, some people are just unfit to win at the current stage they are in their life. Just ask Steve Sarkisian or ask Lane Kiffin. They were both at USC at different times. One was at Tennessee, one was at Washington. They obviously didn't work out at other jobs. And if they didn't work out, they were let go. So this isn't new to coaching. This is standard practice. And yeah, 6 wins at Nebraska is an utter failure. This season was a loss. This season was dreadful. This season was a joke. There are silver linings and there are positive takeaways that you can pull, okay? But I'm not looking at 6 wins and saying, thank God Nebraska got to a bowl game. All is righted in the world and Matt Rule's the right guy. We saw improvement. We saw progress. What? This is the equivalent to I improved on my grade from a F to a D. What? I got a 50% last year, and now I got a 60%. So we made improvement. Get the hell out. I'm not saying anything to you, Caleb. No disrespect to you. I'm just trying to give you my reaction to your comment that is so crazy in terms of talking about firing year 2 coaches. You have to. You have to fire year 2 coaches who are under-delivering and not performing at the standard they are expected to perform at. I mean, you agree with that. I think Butler as DC and Holgersen as OC would be a good pairing. And that's what's the most interesting part. I don't know what it would look like with Butler as DC. I think 1 year with Butler as DC will tell us a lot. But because we've only seen him as a DB's coach, that's what's interesting. Let's see. I'm just checking Twitter to make sure we see some things. I like this. Here we go. Here we go. Clinton Jones responds to something and it says, this is regarding transfer portal. It says, yep, the rules state that we got to shed 1/3 of our roster. Don't act like players are leaving because they're unhappy. Maybe someone sat down with Butler and told him he might want to get in the portal early. We don't know. Chill is good advice. Bro. Butler leaving is catastrophic. Chill is the opposite energy any reasonable fan is feeling today. Clint, this is a ridiculous take. Am I wrong for saying that? I mean, chat. Chill? The world is falling and you want me to chill? What? There are 700 people watching this live stream right now because we're all like, what the hell is going on? Why are there all of... I don't need to tell you. You guys know. We got common sense in the chat. Thoughts on our 2025 schedule? I'll do a quick run through. Quick. I'm going to make videos about this, obviously, in January. But let's just do a quick run through. I don't even know who's on it. Actually, I know Cincinnati's on it. Okay. Cincinnati to start the year. Right now it says it's in Lucas Oil Stadium. I think this is changing to Kansas City, right? So a Nebraska home game, essentially, in Kansas City. You got Akron. I like that. You got Houston Christian. I like that. This isn't in order, by the way. Nebraska will play Iowa at home. They'll play Michigan at home. I like both of these matchups. Michigan obviously is going to have a true freshman quarterback if all goes right. Michigan State, like that matchup. Northwestern, like that matchup. USC at home, like that matchup. Maryland at Maryland, like that matchup. I mean, is there a game I don't like? Every single one of these. Minnesota, Penn State on the road, UCLA on the road. There isn't, a game on here where I'm like, oh, Nebraska's guaranteed going to lose. Even this year, you only had one. This year, the only guaranteed loss was Ohio State. Guaranteed, and then they damn near pulled the upset. So I feel great about next year's schedule. All the opportunity in the world. You better freaking win. That's the bottom line. Matt Rule knows that. You better freaking win. Doug says, I'd rather have Coleman than Naor. Hey, I totally get it. I totally respect that opinion. Coleman was a stud, as Pinball Wizard says. Nathan says, wasn't Butler a DC at Penn State 10 years ago? He was. 10 years changed, 10 years changed. Doug says, dude, losing Jamari and Mackay was huge. Chill? No. Risky says, Connor, the con man. It's going to be okay, dude. We got this. Hey, look, Risky. Trust me, I know. I'm chill. We got this. But it is catastrophic. What Nebraska's going through is rough. So I agree. I'm gonna sleep tight tonight. I'm going to be chilling. No problems. I'm not going to go and drink my sorrows away. All is well over here in Connor's neighborhood. But it is chaotic. It is frantic. It is a lot. So I feel like I'm reacting accordingly. Maybe some people are like, hey, no big deal. You're too stressed out. You're too worked up. But it is crazy news, if we're being real. Like Boyd says, thanks for being a member, Boyd. Good players leaving is an issue. It is an issue when you're trying to develop them. John says, where will Jamari Butler go? I'm going to put my vote in, and I'm going to say he's going to go to Florida State right now. But it could change. Right now, Florida State. Zach, thank you for the $5 super chat. Do we think any other offensive staff get let go? That's a good question. Where does Sat fall? Does he stay for the tight ends? Sat's gone. There will be no more Sat with the tight ends. I think he's out. I don't think any other coaches will get let go on the offense. That's my takeaway. Dana did credit the offensive coaches when he first got there. The only one who I knew he didn't really like was Garrett McGuire. So Garrett McGuire getting out makes sense, but all the other ones probably stay. I don't know what's going to happen with the tight end spot, though. So that will be interesting. They might need to make one more hire at the tight end spot because you'll lose two offensive coaches in McGuire and Sat. You'll replace them with one in, I guess you really only need one. I don't know how many they could potentially make. Dana and then one receivers coach. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. Rule has made some very suspicious decisions so far, choosing Jeff Sims over Thompson, picking Sat as his OC when his previous credentials sucked, choosing Naor over Coleman. Okay, two of these I agree with, one I don't. Can you guess which one it is? Actually, I'm neutral on another. Okay, suspicious decisions number one, Jeff Sims over Thompson. In practice, it sounds like Jeff Sims was doing good things, and it got to game time where he just screwed up, Thompson had some injury history. He was a smaller guy. Thompson's injury history, it gave me little faith in his future. And it obviously ended up being the right call. Casey Thompson tore his ACL his second or third game at his next school after Nebraska, right? So the injury thing was a real deal with him. Jeff Sims was the right call on that, I think. I do think Jeff Sims was the wrong guy to go after in the portal, but Jeff Sims was highly rated and Jeff Collins was trusted. Obviously, Jeff did a lot better at Georgia Tech than he did at Nebraska. It's tough. Hindsight's 2020. Picking Sat as his OC when his previous credentials sucked. I do agree with this one. However, the argument that Matt Rule could make is, look, I just wanted to run the ball downhill and play good defense. I wanted to be like Wisconsin. He believed that Satterfield was able to do that, and then plans obviously changed once they went and got a 5-star quarterback in Dline that they did not know they were going to get. So I think, picking Sat was probably the wrong idea still, and they shouldn't have done that. He should have gone with a more high-powered offense, but Rule has been known, now that we have seen him for a couple of years, to want to play a little bit more conservative and rely on the defense to win games. Choosing Naor over Coleman, that one's tough. Coleman had some issues, didn't know the playbook. He wasn't ready to play. They wanted to redshirt him, make sure he had his peak years to, get the best out of him. And Naor was a stud at times this season. Naor had a lot of upside, and he had a lot of potential. He just failed to deliver. So I don't know that I would blame Raiola or blame Rule for the Nayor pick over the Coleman pick. I do think it's tough when you look back now on the season and say, why didn't he play Coleman in 4 games? Like, what was the reasoning to leave him on the bench the entire time? That one I'm confused by. And then obviously Holgersen making the comment he made about we have a young guy who can help us, but wasn't referencing Coleman and didn't play Coleman against USC or wasn't intending to, led to Coleman obviously wanting to leave the program. So I don't know about the way he handled the Coleman situation, but I also have questions about Malachi Coleman, you know, so it's tough. It is tough. Let's see. Dom says, in my opinion, Malachi was the biggest subtraction. I think Duke could have been a stud under Dana's system and Dylan throwing. Oh, well, maybe he'll change his mind and withdraw. A fan can dream. Yeah, I think he's pretty sold on wherever he's going to go. I don't know what'll happen, but I'm pretty certain he's locked into his next place. But who knows? I don't. I do know that we're going to have more content this week. We'll have more to talk about. I've got videos. Obviously, we'll have to do another live stream, I'm sure, if more breaking news is going to come out all week. So expect another live stream. Expect more content. There's plenty to talk about. And I appreciate you guys for being here. So thank you for tapping into the stream. Thank you for all of the super chats, all of the support all season long. And Zach says, are you talking about a Houston wide receiver that Holgersen will bring? I haven't talked about one. I think it's too early to talk about portal receivers and portal players. I'm waiting for the right time to talk about certain things. You know, I don't want to just throw everything out there right now and not have anything to talk about or not do any research beforehand. So with all of that said, I'll be back this week. We'll be live. We'll have videos, and I'm keeping you as up to date with how I feel about everything going on around Nebraska football. So again, thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.